Welcome, everyone, to a wonderful conversation we are having today with one of our wonderful Reflections members and great author of America Should Be Grateful to Haiti. Don't believe the lie. When you see people of color, see pride. Author, Brother Roger Persaud. Welcome, welcome, Roger Persaud. I'm so grateful, Brother Persaud, for you to be here with us today and to talk a little bit about the power behind this book, the purpose behind this book that you've written, and hopefully we'll get this into the hands of so many people after this conversation. So let's just start off talking about what motivated you to write this book.
Thank you, Dr. Disnes St. Leger. These stories have been with me for a long time. I've known them, and nobody was telling them. And then one day in 2016, my son Trevon came home from school, and we were discussing what he learned in school, and he said they told him that slaves come from Africa. I said, okay, I got to write my book. And that's the beginning of my idea to put these stories into a book.
So since 2016, you had a mindset of what you wanted to accomplish. Now that the book is ready to be in the hands of people to read, what is it that you want to accomplish with this text?
We're in a church setting, and we know that we were created in truth, beauty, and righteousness, but we were corrupted. We won't get into how we were corrupted, but we were corrupted. Now, if we can get the education into the masses of the truth of our history, I think we can solve some problems. One of the reasons racism persists is not just because of racism. It is because of the dehumanization of indigenous and African peoples. Lies were fabricated so that this dehumanization could take place. We've got to correct that narrative.
It's been something that's happening more and more today as far as correcting history or showing a fuller sense of history. So as an individual reads this book, what do you want them specifically to be able to know and then be able to do after reading it?
Well, there are two audiences. One is young adult people of color. I want to instill a pride in them because we have a fantastic history that did not start in 1619. We've got a history that goes back before Christ, 2000 BC. We've got a tremendous history. And also, for other people, not people of color, to learn that black people have worth. We need to talk about African civilizations and contributions that Africans have made to this planet.
So if you can tell the audience just a brief understanding of the root of this book, what would you tell them in like a snippet for them to truly have an understanding of what they're going to be reading when they pick it up?
Well, the name of the book is America Should Be Grateful to Haiti. And America specifically should be grateful to Haiti because if Toussaint Louverture's revolution was not successful, America would not be what it is today.
I know this from my own history, from my own family history, from my own background. A lot of people think of Toussaint Louverture and they think of Haiti in a negative sense. So how does this book really set the proper stage?
Haiti was punished for its actions. You have to realize this is the first black slave revolt. This is 1791. This is the age of revolution. This is after the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and this is now a revolt by captive Africans. And you got to realize these people did not beat their local captives. They beat their local capturers. They beat the imported French. Then they beat a huge British force, 55,000 soldiers over 5 years, spending $10 million. And they lost. Then Napoleon sent in his troops, the largest expedition ever to set sail from France, and Toussaint and his army beat them all. This story inspired me as a teenager, and I could not believe that it's not more widely told.
I know you're a man of faith. I know that you're guided by that from our time since my first day meeting you. One of my questions I have, and I think the audience would like to know, is how did faith play into you writing this story?
One of the people prominent in this story is Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus believed, he truly believed, that God put him on a mission to spread the gospel. Not only that, Toussaint himself was raised by a man of faith, not his father. He had a teacher named Pierre Baptiste, who was a freedman and a learned man. And he taught Toussaint about the faith. He taught him a lot of things, but he also gave him the book of the Abbé Raynal, the tale of the two Indies, where Toussaint not only learned about God and his inspiration, but he learned economics, he learned about war, he learned about politics. Toussaint himself was a devout Catholic. So he believed that religion and faith helped make a man a better person, thus creating a better society.
So for you being a man of faith, getting this story out sounds like it's a bit of a purposeful mission to get this book to folks. One of my questions I have for you is, when we talk about Haiti, you also mentioned the United States. And there's this connection. It's in the title, it's in the essence of this book. Tell us a little bit more about the connection between Haiti and the United States.
The center of the United States, back in those days, the United States was on the East Coast and the West Coast. The entire center of the United States, from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up and into Canada, was French territory. Now, the French were trying to use that as a supply base for Haiti and their other territories they had. Now, after losing Haiti, now you got to realize Haiti was the pearl of the Antilles. In the 1700s, it was the richest colony anybody owned. It produced 40% of the world's coffee, 50% of the world's indigo, and close to 60% of the world's cotton. Now, after they lost that, and they fought and fought, this lasted 12 years, and they lost that. So there was a lot of blood and treasure that was expensed during this battle. Napoleon had very little choice but to offer for sale the land that he owned that divided the United States. That is called the Louisiana Purchase. This is 828,000 square miles, 7 total states: Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota, and then parts of 7 more states. It's a huge territory. This is the biggest real estate deal in the history of the world. Also, it provided something to America that is invaluable. It gave them 2 of the largest defense and most important defense mechanisms in the history of the world: the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. That's why when the First World War broke out, there was no fighting here. When the Second World War broke out, there was no fighting here. Now, intercontinental ballistic missiles changed that, but America got this as a gift from the people of Haiti, because if that revolution was not successful, you can better believe that land would never have been sold.
You talk about the Louisiana Purchase and some of the states in the Louisiana Purchase you actually lived in.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you've had some significant time. I believe it's in Oklahoma.
Yes.
And in your book, I believe you also talk about some of the other things that have happened as far as African Americans. You touch on Oklahoma. Can you talk a little bit about your history there, your time there, and what that meant to you?
Yes, you have to understand that when somebody conquers a land or buys a land, there are people there. There are people in there. There are lives going on. There were the people, some of the people were there in 700 BC. There were Africans there. There's a lot of questions as to how these Africans got there. We're going to touch a little bit about that in the book, but I want to talk about the situation these Africans found and took advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
They lived in this area because it was not part of the United States, and they could not be enslaved. So that's why they gathered there. Now, in Oklahoma specifically, in northeast Oklahoma, a group of Africans with Indians gathered, and they did business with the outlaws, they did business with the Indians, and they did business with the Underground Railroad. And these people got rich. Now, when Oklahoma became a state, by the way, as a little tidbit, Oklahoma is called the Sooner State because the white people came in sooner than they should have. There was a specific date, and they came in earlier. That's why it's a Sooner State. But when they came in, the people that came in had no choice but to do business with these guys that were already there. And these guys prospered. They grew, they developed. O.W. Gurley and J.W. Smitherman, two businessmen, got together and built what became known as the Black Wall Street. By the way, the term Black Wall Street was coined by Booker T. Washington, and he intended to use them as a model for black civilizations all over the United States. Now, right about the time, 1921, when they were really getting into discovery of oil, and these rich black people with the Black Wall Street were getting ready to invest in oil. And that's when the Tulsa Massacre happened and was done mainly by the Ku Klux Klan. Then I cover the Osage Indians, one of my favorite sets of people. These are the people that were there since 700 BC. These people were sophisticated. They met the French people in the late 1500s. By the 1600s, their trade flourished. They were the best furriers south of the Canadian border. The French people loved doing business with them. These people actually traveled to Europe before 1776.
Wow.
They went to the museums in Europe. They brought back European furniture. Their women wore silk brocades. When Lewis and Clark met the Osage Indians during the expedition of discovery, he said, these people are awesome. And he told Thomas Jefferson to invite him to the White House. And he did. They were invited to the White House not once, but twice.
So when we look about the Louisiana Purchase and we look about the history within that purchase and the connections to Haiti, outside of your book, can you tell me where'd you get your information from? Like, how did you create this book for this history to be told?
Well, I was in a class in 1980, and the professor, Dr. Manis, I'll use his name, he's my friend, was teaching about the Louisiana Purchase. And after everybody was done speaking, I stood up and I said, Dr. Manis, how can you talk about the Louisiana Purchase and not talk about the Haitian Revolution? And everybody in the class looked, Haiti? Haiti? What's Haiti got to do with anything? And he told them, shut up, let him speak. And I spoke. This is never connected in all the teaching of American history. This is deliberate. This is deliberate because of what they wanted to do to Haiti. Now, Thomas Jefferson loved Haiti in 1793. Oh, he loved it. He talked about people fighting for freedom. He loved it. But by 1804, he hated them. Frederick Douglass said, they're punishing Haiti because it's black. And that's the truth. And, you know, a lot of people don't realize that the French, after now, the revolution, the independence was in 1804. 21 years later, the French came back with the blessings of all the powers in the world, surrounded the island with gunboats, and forced Haiti to pay reparations for the 200,000 lives that were lost because they considered those 200,000 black people property. And Haiti paid that debt until 1947. By the way, the United States did not just stand by. They actually got involved. They sort of paid off the debt. We don't know the truth about that deal. But then Haiti just got another master to pay. And the United States actually took control of the Haitian economy for 19 years until that debt was paid. That debt, this action, this attitude is what makes Haiti the most impoverished nation in the Western Hemisphere.
Telling the truth matters.
Absolutely.
It does. And I think your book does an amazing job at doing that. And I cannot wait to get my hands on the full copy. The pieces that I've read, folks, have been absolutely amazing. The excerpts that Brother Persaud has shared with me. So I am looking forward to everyone getting an opportunity for this book. Brother Persaud, how can people get their hands on this book to read for themselves the truth about Haiti and the United States?
Right now, the book is only available for pre-order, and pre-orders are available at rogerpersaud.com. You can go to rogerpersaud.com and order your copy, and you will receive a signed copy by me in about 2 or 3 weeks.
So we're on the cutting edge of this book being released into the hands of folks to get the truth. As you heard, you can get your pre-order at rogerpersaud.com. This is where you go, and Brother Persaud will sign your copy. So be prepared to have a personalized copy and a true understanding of the truth that we all need to know about in regards to Haiti, the United States, and so many other things about our ancestry when we think about how the world works and what they've done to an amazing country to label it impoverished, to label it something that it is not. So get the truth. Get the truth. And Brother Persaud, I thank you so much for bringing the truth. I thank you so much for writing this book, for staying true to something that you know was in your heart to do, and keeping the faith to get it in print and in the hands of people. Thank you so much for joining us today. Brother Persaud, thank you for sharing a little bit about what they will get in the book. And you all, please make sure you go and get your copy. Brother Persaud, thank you. Everyone, thank you.